All right. Let's talk Kentucky football, and I'll uh, jump in here wherever you feel you want to get an opinion in, as I'm just going to rip off some factoids.
Well,
Okay.
hey, before you start
Yeah.
rattling off your exhaustive research and make everybody break out a calculator like we're taking an ACT, what does Stoops need to do?
Bowl eligible.
I
Oh,
kind
oh,
of,
oh,
I mean,
look, look,
I think that's fair. I mean, I do, and I know we're going to pick our game. We'll go game by game later, but I think that is fair. Last year was a debacle. Brock Vandergriff, you and I both missed on Brock Vandergriff. I thought he
yeah.
was going to be a hell of a lot better than he was, and now he's
Mhm.
retired. And they got no favors with the schedule, but it points me back to a question that I don't know the answer to. Is Mark Stoops a good football coach, or is he a good enough football coach at Kentucky?
Well, he's definitely a good enough football coach at Kentucky. In fact, when I was reading Athlon's little write up on Kentucky this morning. He's their all-time winningest coach, and I was like, well, he's their best coach ever. And then I was like, whoa, wait a second, Bear Bryant was there for a minute. And then, so I went back and I was like, all right, how long was Bear Bryant there? Bear Bryant was there 8 years. And in 1950, um, they beat Oklahoma, the number one team in the country, and denied them a natty in the Sugar Bowl. And after the 53 season, he signed a 12-year contract extension because they told him that Adolph Rupp was getting fired for cheating for NCAA violations. A few weeks later, he realized they were lying to him and that Rupp was about to sign an extension, and he quit. So he was
And
there eight
famously
years.
said, "Mama called."
Mama called, and he went to do the Junction Boys and was at A&M before Alabama. But I mean, Mark Stoops has done a fantastic job overall. But I think it's kind of, well, you know what Spurrier said in his resignation. He goes, 12 years long enough for anybody in SEC school. And so, how many years is this? Oh, I've got it right here. Let's see.
This is
Uh,
12, right? 15 was his first year.
this is his 13th. He's already been there 12, and maybe it's run its course. But here's the other interesting thing I read in Athlons, and I don't know if this means this is the buyout right now or after this season. I'll let you interpret whatever. So the last sentence: it is difficult to imagine Kentucky firing its all-time winningest coach with a buyout of more than $40 million owed. But another losing record would lead to plenty of calls for change. So I don't know if that's after this season more than 40 or if it goes down after the season. But whatever the case, I think it'll be a situation where they just say, won't you shop around for other jobs rather than us pay you this buyout? Or what do you think he says, that I want my buyout or I'm
Oh, hell
retiring?
yeah, I want the buyout.
Okay.
I mean, I think buyouts are ludicrous, honestly.
But
I mean,
I think him and the AD get along really good. The AD's
and,
gone to
and in truth, you know who could have as much impact on Mark Stoops and his status in Lexington?
Venables? No, he's not going to get hired at Oklahoma.
No,
What?
Mark Pope. Because if they're happy with the basketball program, hey, let's have a fun Saturday. We can tailgate and then we
Yeah.
can all talk basketball, kick some cocktails. And
Yep.
I mean,
Yep. That's true.
6-6 is swell. Don't get the NCAA here and get us in trouble for hoops, and get us
Go
to
ball
a
game.
meaningless bowl game that we can go spend Christmas before we save up our money for whatever, for going to Cat Nashville or Catlanta or wherever we're
Hmm.
going to go for the SEC tournament and what we're going to do in March.
I don't think they're calling it Cat Nashville because they haven't had a whole lot of success in Nashville the last half dozen years or so. All right. Okay, here we go. Phil Steele has Kentucky number 50 in his preseason power rankings. His national unit rankings have, well, they go anywhere from about 60-ish to like 75 at different positions, depends on the position. But they did not make it in the quarterback, where Zach Calzada, formerly of A&M and ever so briefly and didn't get on the field much for Auburn. And then he's been at Incarnate Word. And I'll give you his stats here in a minute. Let me do these national unit rankings. So at running back, they were number 59. At they were not ranked at wide receiver.
How many?
They
How many? What? How does it? How high does it go?
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. It goes as high as like 65 in some of them, but
Where
there's
is John Holmes on the national unit rankings?
I see what you did there. That was good. All right, so number 59 running backs not ranked in wide receiver. O line number 48. D line number 70. So D line goes up pretty high. Linebackers number 60. DBs number 36, and special teams number 50. So Phil Steele's preseason All SEC, he doesn't just do a first and second team. He goes all the way up to fourth team. And with that being the case, Kentucky still only has 3 players on it, and the highest, that would be your punter, Aiden Laros. It's a second team preseason All SEC. Josh Braun, formerly of Florida, formerly of Arkansas, interior O lineman. He is preseason third team All SEC. And linebacker Alex Afare, fourth team. He had 62 tackles, 11 TFLs, 1.5 sacks, 1 INT last year. Okay, so now it's kind of crazy. So Phil Steele, he says they have 8 returning starters on offense and 5 on defense. But I think he counts kicker as one of those. And so Athlon Magazine has Kentucky with 3 starters back on offense and 3 on defense. But
Well, you know what he may do is
this is going to be something.
Portal guys who started a previous school maybe count as a returning starter.
Maybe he does do that. I was thinking maybe
on the blower. I know you got the direct line to the hotline.
Yeah, maybe I need to.
Hey, how messed up is Phil Steele's office and basement with just piles of crap everywhere, piled up and highlighted. And,
hoarder show. Should be a hoarder show.
Yes,
absolutely. All right, so just back to 24 briefly. Kentucky 4-8 straight up, 5-7 ATS. But they were getting beaten pretty bad because only 2 of their 8 losses were 1 possession games. They went 1-2 in 1 possession games. All right, 4 of their top 6 tacklers are back. All right, recruiting rankings per 247 Sports Composite. Number 26 overall, number 10 transfer Pacific. Of the incoming freshmen, 11 early enrollees. They got 47 total commits. 14 are 4-stars. They have 7 4-star transfers. Edge rusher Cam Olds from Kent State, 42 tackles and 6 sacks last year. D lineman David Gusta from Wazoo, 24. There you go. 24 starts last 3 years for Wazoo. 62 tackles, 5.5 TFLs. They've got an O-tackle, Shiaza Pete, New Mexico State. First team All-Conference USA, blocking for Diego Pavia. Friend of the show, always gets a name drop every single show. This kid, Pete, was first team All-Conference USA in 2023. 6 starts last year, then a season-ending injury. All right, Edge McQueesy, Jay Greeson's cousin, Humphrey Grace, FCS All-American at South Dakota, 18.5 TFLs, 9.5 sacks, and wide receiver Kendrick Law from Bama, and offensive tackle Alex Wolschlager, not Gold, but Wolschlager, first team All-MAC last year at Bowling Green. And then I mentioned those are the 4-stars. 3-star was Josh Brown, 32 career starts. Preseason third team All SEC with Phil Steele. They also got a transfer from 3-star, but from Clemson, wide receiver Troy Stellato. But he started 11 games last 2 years at Clemson, 585 receiving yards. All right, I didn't look up all the betting numbers because they're so astronomical for their odds to win everything. But the season win total, is 4.5, and it is to. Oh wait, where did I write down those odds? I think it's minus 114 to the over and minus 106 to the under. That's just going off memory. A couple of scheduling points. Actually, right here. No, I think I said that wrong. What did I just say? Were you listening? What did I
Yeah.
say those odds were?
Minus 114 to the over
Over
and 106
minus.
to the under.
I was correct then. Good, because I found where I wrote it down. All right, two scheduling notes I want to point out. They get their open dates before a home game against Texas, which they're not going to win regardless of 2 weeks prep, but I'm going to mention it anyway. And Texas is coming off a rivalry game against Oklahoma. They get their other open date before they play at South Carolina, and South Carolina has to play at Mizzou the week before. And then on the flip side, Vandy has 2 weeks to prepare for Kentucky, and Kentucky doesn't. Okay. Any thoughts? I'm going to mention a couple other players, but any
Well, I
thought?
mean, you talked about who's coming. I think it's fair at this point in time we talk about who's gone. You lose a first round corner who was a dude. You lose two wide receivers that everybody in the league would want to have.
Dane Key, I've been saying, is the most underrated player in the SEC for 2 years. He went to Nebraska. And Barryon Brown, maybe the best special teams return man in the country. Good wide receiver, too, to LSU. Yep.
Yeah. And then we talked about Vandegrift retiring, and they replaced him with a guy who, as John Candy's character, John Oxenberger, liked to say in the movie Stripes, he appears to have swallowed a lot of aggression along with a lot of pizzas.
Yes. They also lost J.J. Weaver, who was a longtime producer on the D-line. They lost De'Aaron Jackson. They lost the big D tackle, Deion Walker. And they lost Jamon Dumas Johnson, their leading tackler, who had 7 TFLs, 3.5 sacks last year. And we mentioned Key and Brown. Yep.
And the corner was Maxwell Hairston.
Yes, Maxwell Hairston. Yep. And he
now
missed.
I will say this, and we got to give credit where credit's due. In his 13 years, Mark Stoops almost always whenever the only time I really watch Kentucky is when they play Auburn or they play somebody who's in our coverage area here in Chattanooga, and it's part of it because there's almost always better games on, and Mark Stoops is completely content to win as many games as he can, 17-13. So they frequently get lost in the shuffle of the entertainment factor that is the Western sizzling buffet of college football greatness on Saturdays. But every time you watch Kentucky with Stoops over the last decade, there is always a front seven defensive guy who you're going to see in the NFL. They find one, develop him. He gets bigger, stronger. He's coached up, and it's true always. Now that may taper off in the NIL era because these guys are going to go to bigger offers because they're dudes. But and that's a credit to Stoops. I mean, he is developing NFL defensive talent, and I mean, last year's season to finish 4-8 with a win in Oxford and damn near upsetting Georgia.
Should have upset Georgia.
I mean, was really kind of, head scratching.
Yeah, and I will say they did go 7-5 against the spread last year. So for our purposes, they weren't the worst team in the world. I know I bet on them at Tennessee when they were catching 17.5, and they were up at halftime. They only lost by 10, so that was a comfortable cover. You know what? I think I bet on them at Texas as well, and they covered. They lost 31-14 as a 19-point dog. Yeah, I did. So there's 2 games I won on them, although I had Ole Miss like first half, first quarter, team total over, and lost my ass on that game. I probably lost more than $500 on that game, if memory serves. It was bad. That was bad. Thank God it was the noon game, and I had time to rally. Um, I want to mention a couple other players. So Jamarion Wilcox, their leading rusher, is back. 590 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.4 yards per carry average. However, and I know Phil Steele, because he tweets about it, he talks to all these coaches on the phone for like an hour. And the Wilcox kid who led him in rushing last year is listed 4th on the depth chart in Phil Steele's mag. So either he's in the doghouse for something, or, well, obviously he likes the transfer Dante Dowdell from Nebraska a lot better, because that's who's listed as the starter. He started 7 games for Nebraska last year, 614 rushing yards, 4.3 yards per carry. And then Seth McGowan, who was at New Mexico State last year and had 11 starts, 813 rushing yards, and 5.3 yards per carry. Or maybe these guys are just better than Wilcox. I don't know. But I also wanted to mention Jamore Macklin is back at receiver. Now, he was a all-conference player at North Texas a couple of years ago. Last year, not many catches, but not a very good quarterback either. He had 13 catches. He turned it into 313 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he'll be a starter at receiver. What else do I have in these notes? I think that's about it. So are we ready to jump into the schedule?
We can, but I mean, it's easy to spend too much time on every one of these on the quarterback, but I don't know how you can feel anywhere close to as confident with Calzada this offseason as you probably did with Vandergrift coming from Georgia the previous offseason, and that didn't work.
Yep. All right, let me give you some stats on Calzada. So at A&M in 2021, he did beat Alabama. Right? That was that year, right? And
Man, what a football game that was.
Yeah, it was. Night game, too. I remember where I was watching it. I was feeling no pain that night.
Did you have your pants on?
I had my pants on, of course. All right, so Calzada started 10 games at A&M that year, 2,185 passing yards, 17-9 TD-INT ratio, but only 56% completion percentage. DNP 22 at Auburn. Was he hurt, or did he just never? Okay.
He hurt his throwing shoulder.
Okay. So the last 2 years, he has been at Incarnate Word and FCS. 22 starts, 6,144 passing yards. Again, I'm combining 2 seasons. 66% completion percentage, 53-17 TD-INT ratio. So he
you hit on the big number right there, because I know this is going to blow your hair back, but I actually did a little show prep. I'm not just coming in here and flipping one-liners and asking if you had your pants on.
This is going to be a sarcastic joke. I know it.
No, it's not. No, okay. It's not. When Kentucky completed 64% or better last year, they were 4-0. When they didn't, they were 0-8.
Stat of the show. Well,
I'm gonna do the rest of the show with my pants off. So,
so somebody pointed out to me that Calzada had gained like 30 pounds, and I did a Google search in the images. He's been drinking some cold beer out at Incarnate Word. Where, by the way,
some cold beer and some calzonas is what he's been going through.
Yeah, he definitely has. By the way, Cam Ward played at Incarnate Word before Calzada.
And when he left, you know what he said?
That's good. That was pretty good. All right, let's get into this schedule. I mean, Zach Calzada needs to be really good.
Yes, he does.
Year. He needs to be really good this year. Oh, wow. You know what? I just uncovered another stat. So in Phil Steele's mag, you know, he lists the name of the stadium, what year it was built, and the capacity. So Kroger Field holds 61,000. And then the next stat is always an interesting one. Last year's capacity, like last year, how close were they to capacity? They went 4-8, but they were 97.6%. I guess that's probably just sold tickets.
Yes.
Rather than who was actually in the stands. Who were they playing late last year?
And of course, Kroger Field, named after Larry Kroger, aka Pinto, in the documentary about fraternities everywhere called Animal House.
Yes, Pinto. All right. Yeah. So they ranked 31 in the nation in selling tickets. So that's not bad. They're still getting fans. I don't know that the Murray State game had a whole lot of fans. I'm gonna guess it didn't, but because that was late in the year. All right. So Toledo at home. Are we giving them a W or not? Are the Rockets coming to the town thinking they're gonna win out? And let me look up the Rockets starting QB, by the way. Just giggles
to
sake.
Circle back from an earlier chat that we had, that capacity percentage could actually work in Stoops' disadvantage.
Oh, because more people in the stands, more people pissed.
Well, more people ticked off, and if it then goes from 97 in 4-8, and you don't get bowl eligible, and it dips to 82. I mean, there's some hard evidence of some serious backtracking, especially in the days when you can't afford mediocrity.
Perhaps we shouldn't just gloss over this Toledo game as if it's a guaranteed dub. Toledo did go to Starkville last year and win 41-17.
Hey, you talked about some of the Ole Miss, and I lost money on Ole Miss, Kentucky too. I cleaned up on the Rockets in Starkville.
Oh, nice. And they also beat Pittsburgh in overtime in their bowl game. So
bowl games don't count.
This is true. And they have their quarterback Tucker Gleason returning. So in fact,
no relation.
I should have already looked up this line. My apologies to all, but I'm looking it up right now. I'm thinking Kentucky. I feel like I have seen it, and maybe I want to say it's only like 10.5 or so.
Yeah, I was thinking 11. I was going to guess 11. That's a great point. That's a great place right there moving forward, Brian. Since this is the first time we've ever done a show together, that you asked me to
make the line.
Guess what the line is while you're looking it up, because I know a lot of our viewers tune in to watch you do Google.
All right. Kentucky is 11.5 minus 105 at FanDuel. And I think I'm a lean to the Rockets plus 11.5 or plus 315 on the money line. And the total is 48.5. And I bet there's a thought of an under for Jay, perhaps.
The 48.5?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless, if we talked about some of his growing body issues, there are a lot of Kentucky folks better hope Calzada emulates the old 2-2, everybody's favorite. If we'd have been doing a show back then, Jared Lorenzen would have been a damn friend of this show.
Yes, he would have. Rest in peace, Jared.
You drank like a case of Mellow Yellow a day.
And a case of beer a day. And no wonder his bladder was so big.
Man, how great was that nickname? The Pillsbury Throw Boy.
You know, I saw him play at the Swamp, and he should have beat us. It was during the Zook era. They were winning most of the game, and we came back. I want to say that game went to overtime. Say something. I'm looking it up.
Something. I mean, dear Lord, Brian, come on. We got to go game by game here. And the guys back at the mothership want us to try to get here an hour on these things.
No.
And you're doing casual reading. Yes, friends. He just cracked open a Playboy.
Mark Lawrence.
Put your pants back on.
Okay. All right. Well, so are you picking Kentucky or Toledo?
I'm taking Kentucky.
I'm taking Kentucky outright, but I'm a lean to Toledo plus 11.5. All right, Ole Miss at home. I got Ole Miss.
Me too. And I think I'd lay whatever that number is, because I think Kiffin shows up there
pissed.
Yes.
Pissed off. Yes.
And
Uh,
unleashes the Austin Simmons show.
and it might be a good time to release Mark Stoops' home underdog ATS stats since 2016. He's 10-6 as a home underdog. He will be a home favorite against my side squad, my man at the factory, Chris Creighton, the underdog king, Eastern Michigan. And if they're catching a bunch, I'll be on Eastern Michigan because they are underdog kings. Yeah, kings. But I got Kentucky outright.
Me too. So that's 2-1, and it better be no worse than that, or because then Stoops, if it's not 2-1 going to South Carolina in the open week, Stoops zooms past Venables.
Yeah. All right. Like I noted earlier, Kentucky gets 2 weeks to prepare for South Carolina, but it's at South Carolina. I got the Gamecocks.
I do too. I think South Carolina is going to be pretty good.
Unders on a 9-1 run in the Kentucky-South Carolina rivalry. Kentucky at Georgia. I got Georgia, but Kentucky always gives them trouble.
You completely read my thought bubble. This feels like it's going to be a one-score game, and Kentucky's going to be kicking themselves on the trip back to Lexington. But even as a nooner in Athens, the day after I turned 55, it's impossible for me to not give Kentucky an L there. And we're going to notice a damn trend here now. The folks in Birmingham did Kentucky 0 favors when you look at this SEC schedule.
Yep. And I'll also note, and again, this is only for ATS against the spread purposes. Well, one, Kentucky is 5-1 against the spread, last 6 against Georgia, but Georgia plays Alabama at home the next week. So, I'm sorry, the previous week. So it will be your vintage letdown spot for Georgia. It's also sandwiched between Georgia at Auburn the following week. So ATS wise, if Kentucky's catching 28 or so, that might be the best spot for the whole season on the board for them. They get their open date the next week, so they're coming guns blazing to Athens. Now, whether they have many bullets in that gun, we don't know. All right. Then 2 weeks to prepare for Texas at home, but that is an L. Although they played them pretty tough last year, and I won a little money. It's 31-14 loss at Texas, but I believe that game was 17-14 at one point in the third quarter, if memory serves. Then Tennessee at home, I got an NL. I'm assuming you agree on all these.
I concur. You and I are exactly the same, which does not always make for great pod watching, but you and I are in the same spot. They're at this point going into Halloween
2-5.
2-5 and 0-5 in the league.
Yep. And then they're at Auburn, and that is another L.
I agree.
Florida at home. If Lagway's injured, they'll have a shot. But if Lagway's healthy, that's an L.
Not only is it an L, we then need to have a conversation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 straight losses. That would be 6 straight losses, all in conference. And your wins are at that point are only against Toledo and Eastern Michigan, and the chatter will get loud.
Well, actually, that would be how many straight SEC losses did you say that was? 6?
Well, it'd be 6 straight games, and if they lose to Florida, it'd be 6 straight SEC losses, 7 total.
It would be 11 straight SEC losses since the win at Ole Miss.
Good point.
Tennessee Tech at home, win. So that gets them 3-7. So if you're on over 4.5, you got to win out at Vandy and at Louisville. Is that Diego Pavia Senior Day? Let me see. I think they play at
No, they
Tennessee.
changed the name of that to Diego Pavia Senior Citizens Day.
And it is Diego Pavia's last home game, and Vandy gets 2 weeks to prepare.
I'm not betting. I take the over that he's going to find a way back for another year.
Oh, that would be wonderful. He should just be able to play for Vandy until he's 30. It's just the Vandy rule. So they lose to Vandy, although they have won 4 in a row at Louisville, and they've averaged 47 points per game, scoring that many at Louisville their last 4 trips. They still lose. I got them going 3-9, man.
I do too.
And look, they can steal one. So what's their best chance to steal one? There's not many.
Vandy.
Diego's not losing his last game at Vandy.
I got you, but it's still.
I think DJ Lagway being banged up is one of their better chances. Where'd my man go? All right, so we like under 4.5, and all right,